Look around you. This is the most comfortable age in human history. Food arrives at the door, entertainment lives in your pocket, and distraction is only one swipe away. Yet for many men, comfort has not brought strength. It has brought softness, slowness, a quiet kind of surrender. You wake up tired, reach for the phone before your feet touch the floor, and let the day begin by feeding your mind with noise, comparison, and cheap dopamine. Before long, the morning is gone, the focus is gone, and with it, something even more dangerous begins to disappear. Self-respect. That is the silent trap. Not failure in the dramatic sense, but the slow erosion of a man's edge. No explosión, no collapse. Just a series of small excuses that become a lifestyle. I'll start tomorrow. I'm just tired. I need motivation first. And while those words sound harmless, they quietly build a prison. Because the truth is, motivation is a guest. Comes and goes. Discipline, on the other hand, is forged. It is built in the uncomfortable spaces where nobody is watching, where no applause is coming, where the only thing standing between you and decay is your decision to act. If this sounds familiar, good. That means you are paying attention. And if you find yourself feeling weak, unfocused, or disconnected from the man you know you should be, then this message is not here to shame you. It is here to wake you up. A man does not become strong by wishing for strength. He becomes strong by confronting the habits that are making him weak. He learns to stop negotiating with his impulses. He learns to sit with boredom without reaching for stimulation. He learns that peace is not found in endless comfort, but in the ability to control himself when comfort calls his name. So yes, take a moment and like this if you already know this conversation is hitting something real. Because this is not about aggression, and it is not about pretending to be someone you are not. It is about becoming grounded, steady, hard to shake, the kind of man who does not need to announce his strength because his life already shows it. And the first step toward that life is brutally honest. What is quietly stealing your future right now? What habit, fear, or addiction has been making you smaller while convincing you that you still have time? Let's look directly at that trap because once you see it clearly, you can begin to break it. It usually starts in silence. A man opens his eyes, and before his feet even touch the floor, his hand reaches for the phone. One glance becomes 10 minutes, then 30. Messages, headlines, clips, noise. The mind is fed before the body is even awake. And little by little, that becomes a way of living. Not because he is evil, not because he is lazy in some cartoonish sense, but because comfort has taught him to avoid friction at all costs. That is where weakness grows. Not in one dramatic failure, but in 1,000 tiny surrenders. The alarm goes off and he delays. The workout is skipped. The hard conversation is postponed. The task that matters is buried under things that feel urgent but mean nothing. At first, it seems harmless. Then one day he looks up and realizes he is not steering his life anymore. He is reacting to it. And a man who only reacts eventually feels like a guest in his own future. This is why motivation fails so often. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls with sleep, mood, weather, stress, and ego. Discipline, on the other hand, is built. It is not a feeling. It is a structure. It is what remains when the feeling disappears. A strong man does not wait to want the work. He learns to begin without permission from his emotions. He understands that identity is not declared in words, but confirmed in repeated action. And here is the part many men resist. Your brain has been trained to chase easy reward. Every scroll, every snack, every instant hit of entertainment teaches the nervous system to avoid boredom. But boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is the doorway. It is the empty space where focus, patience, and strength are born. If you can sit with discomfort without reaching for escape, you begin to reclaim your power. So start smaller than your pride wants. Make the bed. Take the walk. Lift the weight. Write the page. Clean the room. Finish one thing on purpose. Imperfect action defeats inertia because it breaks the spell of delay. You do not need a perfect plan to become a different man. You need a direction, a standard, and the courage to move before you feel ready. And if this is landing close to home, take a moment and like the video quietly, because you are not alone in this fight. The real question is this: what habit is currently stealing your energy, your attention, and your respect for yourself? Once you see it clearly, everything begins to change. The trap is rarely dramatic. It does not announce itself with alarms or sirens. It begins quietly, in the small, unguarded moments when a man decides that comfort is harmless. He wakes up, reaches for the phone, and before he has even stood up, his mind is already being pulled in 10 directions by headlines, messages, noise, and other people's emergencies. The day has not started, and yet his attention has already been spent. That is how strength leaks out of a life. Not in one great failure, but in 1,000 tiny surrenders. And once that pattern settles in, it starts to shape everything else. Work feels heavier. Exercise feels optional. Hard conversations are delayed. Long-term goals become blurry. A man may still look fine on the outside, but inside he begins to feel divided, restless, and strangely powerless. He tells himself he is just tired, just busy, just needing a break. But deep down, he knows something more serious is happening. He is not resting. He is drifting. This is why discipline matters more than mood. Motivation rises and falls like weather, but discipline is what remains when the sky is dark. The strongest men are not the ones who always feel ready. They are the ones who have trained themselves to move before they feel like moving. They understand that the first battle of the day is not against the world, but against hesitation. And if you win that battle early, the rest of the day begins to bend in your favor. Start smaller than your pride wants to admit. Do not wait for the perfect morning, the perfect energy, or the perfect plan. Stand up, make the bed, drink the water, put the phone away for the first hour. These may sound like minor actions, but they are signals. They tell your nervous system that you are no longer a servant of impulse. They tell your mind that you are the one giving orders now. And when boredom arrives, do not treat it like an enemy. Boredom is often the doorway to focus. Most weak men flee from silence because silence forces them to face themselves. But a stronger man learns to sit with the discomfort, breathe through it, and use it. That empty space is where concentration grows. That quiet is where purpose begins to speak again. If this is hitting close to home, good. It means you are still awake. And if you know another man who has been slowly disappearing into comfort, maybe share this with him. It might be the reminder he has been waiting for. Because the next step is not just about resisting laziness, but about understanding the hidden reward system that keeps it alive, and how to break it before it breaks you. There is a point in a man's life when he can no longer pretend that exhaustion is normal. He tells himself he is just tired, just busy, just carrying too much. But deep down, he knows something else is happening. The days are getting softer. The mornings are getting heavier. The mind reaches for distraction before the body has even stood up. And every time he gives in, he loses a little more of the man he was meant to become. The trap is never loud. It rarely announces itself. It looks harmless. One more minute in bed. One more scroll. One more excuse. One more postponed decision. But small comforts repeated daily do not stay small. They become a way of living. And a man who lives only to avoid discomfort slowly becomes easy to control, easy to distract, and easy to forget. That is why discipline matters more than motivation ever will. Motivation arrives like weather. Discipline is built like a house. It does not depend on how inspired you feel when the alarm rings or how confident you feel when the room is quiet. It begins in the moment you say, "I do not have to feel ready to act." That sentence alone can change a life. Because once a man stops waiting to want the right thing and simply does it, he begins to take his power back. And this is where the battle becomes personal. The mind will always negotiate. It will whisper that rest comes first, that the task can wait, that comfort is a reward you've earned. But if you obey every whisper, you become a servant to impulse. A strong man learns to answer that voice with action, not argument. He gets up. He moves. He starts before he feels certain. He works while the mind is still complaining. That is how inertia breaks. There is dignity in doing the hard thing while no one is watching. There is strength in choosing a difficult routine over an easy escape. A man who can tolerate boredom without reaching for instant pleasure becomes dangerous in the best sense. He becomes focused, stable, and hard to shake. He stops living like a consumer of life and starts living like its author. So ask yourself honestly, what is the habit quietly stealing your future? Is it the phone, the comfort, the fear of failure, the constant delay, the addiction to being entertained instead of becoming useful? You do not need to hate yourself to change. You need to see clearly. And if this truth is hitting home, take a second to like the video so it reaches another man who needs it too. Because once you name the weakness, you can begin to defeat it. And the next step is where the real rebuilding starts. The truth is, laziness is rarely just laziness. More often, it is a quiet negotiation with discomfort. A man tells himself he is tired, that tomorrow will be better, that one more hour will not matter. Then another day slips away. Another promise is broken. And slowly, without any dramatic collapse, his life begins to feel smaller than the man he knows himself to be. But strength returns the moment a man stops asking, "How do I feel?" and starts asking, "What must be done?" That shift changes everything. Because discipline is not born in moments of inspiration. It is built in the ordinary, unglamorous minutes when nobody is watching. When the phone buzzes and you do not reach for it. When your body wants comfort, but your values demand movement. When your mind says, "Not now," and you answer, "Now is exactly when." This is where many men lose themselves. Not in crisis, but in convenience. They wake up and immediately surrender their attention. They let the world decide their mood, their thoughts, their pace. By noon, they are already mentally defeated. But a strong man learns to protect the first hour of the day, because the first hour often decides the rest. He does not start by feeding his cravings. He starts by commanding his body. Water, breath, light, movement, silence. Simple acts, repeated with seriousness, begin to restore his authority over himself. And when resistance appears, as it always does, he does not interpret it as a sign to stop. He understands that resistance is the price of becoming harder to break. A weak life is built by avoiding friction. A strong life is built by entering it with purpose. Even boredom becomes useful once a man learns to stay present long enough for his mind to settle. In that stillness, focus returns. Memory sharpens. Confidence grows. The noise begins to fade. Sometimes this battle is not loud. Sometimes it looks like a man sitting alone in his room, staring at the wall before the workout, before the job search, before the difficult conversation, and hearing that familiar voice say, "You're too far gone." That is the lie that keeps men weak. The truth is simpler and more powerful. You are never too far gone to begin again, but you must begin before you feel ready. So ask yourself honestly, what are you feeding every day that is making you smaller? What habit, what fear, what hidden addiction is draining the strength from your hands and the fire from your chest? If this message is hitting somewhere deep, take it as a sign you are not asleep yet. And if you are ready to keep rebuilding, stay with me, because the next step is where the real transformation begins. And this is where the man either breaks the cycle or returns to it. Because once you see the truth clearly, you can no longer pretend not to know it. The phone is not just a device. The couch is not just comfort. The habit of delaying, numbing, escaping, and telling yourself tomorrow is not harmless anymore. It is shaping your character in real time. Every small surrender teaches your mind to expect less from you. Every morning you give away to weakness becomes another vote for the life you said you did not want. But the good news is that strength is not reserved for the gifted. It is built by the man who is willing to be honest, then consistent. Not perfect, consistent. There is power in choosing one hard thing before noon. There is power in getting up when your body wants to negotiate. There is power in keeping your word when nobody is watching. That is how self-respect returns. Not in a dramatic moment, but in private decisions repeated until they become identity. A man does not become strong because he feels ready. He becomes strong because he acts before he feels ready. He rises with a heavier soul and still takes the first step. He cleans his room. He makes the call. He starts the task. He goes for the walk. He resists the easy distraction. He builds a life that does not depend on mood. And if you have been weak for a long time, hear this carefully. Your past does not get the final word. Your addiction does not get the final word. Your fear does not get the final word. The future is still listening to what you do next. So tonight, before the world pulls you back into its noise, ask yourself one honest question. What is the one invisible habit that is stealing the man I could become? If this message hit home, give it a like so it reaches another man who needs it. And if you are done living on autopilot, subscribe because the path back to strength is only just beginning.